Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5:30. I call the Hope School Board meeting to order. First on the agenda is the reports, the approval of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes for April 1st, April 22nd, April 29th, and April 29th of 5.
Moved by Ms. Moss, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we accept the minutes as they are printed, April 1st, 22nd, and 29th. Those in favor show by a show of hands. And we have unanimous. Next thing is the approval of expenditures.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the
Expenditures, but after a second, I have a question or two. Make a motion to approve the expenditures report, but after a second, if there is one, I have a couple of questions.
Moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Ms. Moss, that we accept the expenditures as printed for May. Those in favor show by a show of hands. Before,
Right, I like that.
Just a couple of questions first. And first, I don't have any problem with the expenditures. I may have a problem with the budget. If you look at line items in May detailed expenditures report, you'll see some negative balances, which, I used to get these, but I only got them for the high school. When there was a negative line on there, that wasn't the best thing. And just for not picking out a campus or anything, we could take a look at the Hope School Board line item, which is the first one that I'm talking about, where $10,000 was budgeted and $20,000 has been spent. Either we didn't do a good job budgeting, or we've had some unexpected expenses. And I realize there are always going to be unexpected expenses, but shouldn't we revisit those items when we go past, especially double, a line item in the budget?
Yes, and so we are, the budgeting process really has started now, follow up for the next 2.5 months. Just for example, on those additional PD or other items that are generally related to PR will go there, and some of it will be ledgered back to Magnet on the back end. So that number will be much closer to 10,000 by the time the end of year happens. But you're exactly right. We actually had conversations with a couple of our directors here about overall budget and kind of how we're looking on that. Because it comes to a wash at the
Yeah,
end,
if you
but
take-
we're not budgeting on some of those areas as accurately as we
Right,
would.
that's my complaint. The overall budget, we're well within. Somebody's doing a great job. I mean, there's no question about that. But if we go over a certain amount, we either need a note that that is going to be reduced by something else, or the reason that that happens. And obviously, it can happen in the school business with unforeseen things, but I just would like for the board to see why that's happening.
I think that's a reasonable request. And we've talked about this previously, but as we budget typically below 90% of what we're going to expect to receive. So we're always going to be within that realm of being fiscally responsible, but making sure that those line
Sure.
items are bit by bit is something that we can definitely update the board on once they get closer. And even inside of our talent ed system, this is boring for some people in the room, but inside our talent ed system, looking for actual budget items inside of that system before they can move forward on approval or denial from their immediate supervisor. I think that would be a great next step.
Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, yes.
all in favor show by show of hands. Next thing is the superintendent.
All right, so we have a few things on the report today. We'll obviously start with the awards, but after that, we do have quite a few. And this is end of year, so I see a bunch of professionals that we care about and love in the room, so thank you for being here. Audience, you're welcome to stay through the entirety of it all, but the first one up today will be the superintendent's report with awards. Mr. President? Hi. All right, first up, we'll have the Hope ABC, which in the stead of Ms. Easterling, Ms. Carla Narleski will present. So when your name is called, please come down.
I'm very excited to present these this evening. We have Daniel Balbazal. Daniel, he has improved tremendously this year. He hops right out of the car line with no crying or fits and hugs each person he meets on the way to the classroom. And we also have Nyla Jones. She is always upbeat and in a great mood. Her sunny disposition makes her a welcoming part of our pre-K. Okay. Next we have Jessica Bremseman. Jessica brought a rabbit and puppies this year to share with our students. She is always willing to help out and volunteer with our kids. Is Jessica here? We also have Miss Jocelyn Ventura. Miss Jocelyn painted faces for Arkansas Children's Week. She is always willing to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Miss Kimberly Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez is a vital part of our staff who helps our teachers grow. We have Sakura Henley. She is always willing to help out. When she is here working with our students, she jumps right in without hesitation. And finally, our parent and our community partners are Linda Rowe and Heather Powell with Powell's Roofing. They are always willing to help our school out through their time and donations. They make our school more welcoming by helping us keep our hallways bright and welcoming. So thank you to the pre-K volunteers.
All right, clap it up for pre-K. It is May, so some may not be here for the awards, but also keep in mind, it's always good to not cry once you get out of the car in order to go to the car line. Next up, we have Clinton Primary. I believe we have the wonderful and distinguished Assistant Principal, Ms. Robin Townsend, who will be presenting. Clap it up for Ms. Townsend as she comes.
Okay. Okay. We have a group of children that we would like to present this to tonight, and I don't know if all of you caught our little news broadcast on Facebook, but if you missed it, you really missed something. You should go back and watch it. So I would like for those students that participated in that, Ashley Morales, Gracie Hoagland, Temez Rogers, Kamari Devlin, Everett Newton, and Gael Sanchez.
Thank you very much. Hi, I like your hat. Thanks, Mary. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are very patient. Very patient.
I'm a very patient girl.
You were very patient. Can you come stand right in front of me?
Thank you, Everett. Do you like my hat?
I love your hat. Love it.
All right, clap it up for Everett and crew. If you have not seen that broadcast, I do encourage you to do so. They really did a great job. And I think maybe we'll have another one before this school year is out.
But they're the ones that are listed on the agenda.
There's one side.
I'm gonna do mine.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, our parent is Rosa Fierro. Miss Fierro always puts her children first. She works with her children at home to ensure that they are always successful.
All right. Thank you. Clap it up.
Our teacher this month is Miss Jalen Gully. She's an excellent instructional time manager and makes learning fun. And she and I have been to the alligator farm together today, so we're lucky to be here.
And made it back. Congratulations.
I know.
Next, we have our classified staff member, Miss Paula Washington. She's here. Knowing Miss Washington, she's probably at Walmart working tonight because that's where she usually goes most evenings. But Miss Washington is a loyal employee to our district. She's worked for the district for over 30 years. She's dependable, and she is always willing to kick in anytime we need extra help. So clap it up for her. And our community partners, Pafford and Farmers Bank. Okay, well, I'm just going to say, anything that we ask, they're always there, and they always support the Clinton primary staff, and we appreciate them very much.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Burl Henry Elementary School. Clap it up for Kedrick Jones as he comes down.
All right, first up, I have a student and a parent I'm gonna call up at the same time. That student is Kyrian Swift and his father, Anthony Henry. If you met Mr. Swift, you'll know he's always smiling, always has a smile on his face. He can brighten up anybody's day. And far as his dad always is thinking about BHE. I'll come into the office and they'll say, hey, you know, Mr. Henry dropped by breakfast for the staff, and it's just those things. You don't ask for it, he just do it whenever he just have it on his heart. Next, I'm moving to my classified staff member. This person I like to just call the mom of the campus. She keeps everybody in line. She keeps me in line. But just this transition, far as my first year as a principal, her advice has been second to none, and she has helped me amazingly this year. Miss Katie Flanor.
Clap it up for Ms. Flannery.
Next, my certified staff member, this person is always thinking outside of the box just to make sure her students are always successful for the school year. It have been many conversations that have gave me a headache, but she really try to find a way to make sure all her students are supported, and that's Ms. Shirley Potts.
Don't give him a headache now. Congratulations.
Yes, I am.
It works for the kids.
All right, clap it up.
Lastly, my community partner goes to a company that I just realized that I had the support of. I should have been knowing I had their support, but it took for teacher appreciation, me planning that just out of the blue. They just came and said, hey, we're going to step in, we're going to support to help me fill in that last need that I needed for my campus, and that is Flenoris Transportation.
Thank you for all you do, sir. Thank you. Okay. I see.
Always got that great big old smile.
Clap it up.
For Yerger Middle School, and I don't see anybody from Yerger here tonight, but there's Mr. Andrew Williams and Andrew Williams Jr. Mr. Williams is a very involved parent who is fully devoted to the education of his son, sets the bar for true parental involvement. And Andrew Jr. is a model student and athlete at Yerger Middle School. He's supportive of all initiative and works tirelessly to keep his grades up to par.
Congratulations. Congratulations. All right, clap it up. All right, next we'll have the Hope Academy of Public Service presented by Marilyn Marks, Principal.
Good afternoon. My student of the month is Miss Melanie Arroyo. Melanie is so quiet, but this year she has really learned to speak up and she's become a leader in her class. She always gives her best effort and always has a bright smile and a positive attitude.
Clap it up.
Okay, our parent is also an all-star staff member. It's Miss Amber Keener. Okay. Miss Keener always supports our students and staff whenever possible. My certified staff member is Miss Amber Butler. Ms. Butler is a phenomenal teacher. The connection that she builds with her students and the parents on a daily basis is amazing.
you.
Okay. My classified staff member is Mrs. Cassandra Marshall. The kindness that she shows to students and staff members and willingness to help is amazing. She goes the extra mile showing care and concerns to her one-on-one student as well. And our community partner is McDonald's of Hope. Whenever we need them, they're just a phone call away, and they always supply awards and incentives to our students.
All right, next up, we will have the Hope High School Principal, Ms. Kimberly Dunham, coming to kind of wrap up the school year and present recognitions. Clap it up for Ms. Dunham. With a fantastic high school graduation just this past Friday. So if you came out, thank you for coming to support our students.
Thank you. For our Superintendent's Award for this month, our certified staff is Coach Kelly Muldrew. Coach Kelly was very instrumental in gathering all of our teacher appreciation lunches, prizes, and such, and so we thank her for that. Our classified staff is Ms. Shelby Blackman. Ms. Shelby Blackman is new to our district and new to the office, and she has just jumped right in and helped us even in the most busiest time of the year, which is graduation, and she was just Johnny on the spot with everything, so we thank her. Our parent for this month is Mary Cooper. Mary Cooper actually is a grandmother, and she is very active in her grandchildren's education. She has actually also given us great suggestions for our parent engagement, and so we just thank her for all of her support. For our student, we want to recognize our digital literacy students in the digital literacy department. They took on a huge task of videoing our graduation, and you know, there may have been some faux pas there, but they did it with minimal supervision, and so I am super proud of them and what they have accomplished with us, for us on graduation for that. And then finally, our community partner is Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church, who provided one of our meals for us during our teacher appreciation, and we're grateful for them. Thank you.
All right, so we had a little bit of a reprint with our awards. Is anybody in the audience tonight who is supposed to get an award here who is not? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, here's what I'm going to say. Guys, we can't do it without you. We're going across the finish line. It is May, and we're almost into summertime. So we won't have another round of awards until September. Thank you all for being a part of our district, part of our organization. It is great because of you. So with that being said, number one on the docket for aspiring leaders, you may want to go ahead and get ready. Miss Sandra Roan, who was, I think, on last month's appreciation list for the work that she does as facilitator at Yarger Middle School. Miss Roan, if you'll go ahead and come down and get ready for your presentation for the first aspiring leader. Clap it up for Miss Roan as she comes down. I just want to go ahead and acknowledge that we have 3 aspiring leaders that will be presenting tonight. Dr. Jones is in the back, if you'd wave. Dr. Jones, she's Assistant Superintendent for Federal Programs, HR, Assurances, you name it. 3 of the aspiring leaders will be going tonight. kind of the capstone of their research for their program. It's a 2-year program. Everybody in the program has done a wonderful job, and this is part of the requirements that we set before they can officially graduate the program, is to present to the school board. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Good evening. I am Sandra Roan, a member of the Aspiring Leaders Fellowship Program. The recommendations presented to you tonight are recommendations to solve low 7th grade reading scores at Yerger Middle School. Low reading scores at Yerger Middle School are a problem because low reading scores affect student performance across various areas in various content areas. It affects science, math, social studies, so that's a major problem. Also, as a student transitions from one grade level to another, that grade level vocabulary becomes more rigorous. And also, college, it affects their preparedness for college and career readiness courses such as WorkKeys, STEM, and eventually college level vocational and college courses. Throughout the research performed on the recommendations gathered tonight, there was certain common terminology found within all of the research. This terminology, these are just a few of the terms that were common throughout the articles that were read, researched, whether it were online or books. One of the terms, the first term is RTI, response to intervention. That's the how. How will we correct the low reading scores at Yerger? That's the programs, etc. How will we correct the problem that's occurring? Next, MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. MTSS is different from RTI because MTSS addresses the academics and the behavior problem, whereas RTI only addresses the academic part of it. Next, a common terminology term throughout the research conducted was progress monitoring. Okay, we know readers are struggling. Okay, what are we going to do about it? But once we actually set in place a remediation program, that program, the students need to be monitored. That is called progress monitoring. And tonight, of course, what I'm offering before you are recommendations is how to address a current challenge in education. That challenge tonight is low reading scores in 7th grade, low reading scores at Yerger Yerger Middle School. As stated, there was numerous articles read, online articles, books, etc., and a gathering of information to present the recommendations tonight. Some analysis of the research stated that over 217 million students are below reading level. That's 217 students. Some of the recommendations made were to use evidence-based materials and to increase professional development at Tier 1 in the classroom. And also, this has become such a problem, reading is such a problem, y'all, that it has become America's reading problem. But personally, it's Yerger's reading problems because they're my kids. I consider them my students. Next, moving on, one of the most important things that I mentioned was using evidence-based strategies in Tier 1 to benefit those students that were having reading difficulties. Tier 1 is whole class instruction. Whole class meaning that you identify those struggling readers in the classroom, and Tier 1 is inside the classroom, the instruction that that student gets one-on-one with the teacher. Next, Tier 2, these are the three, by the way, these are the three levels of reading instruction, instructional reading. Tier 2, the student is placed in small group and reading based on the screenings, the initial screenings, which identify the level or the difficulties the students are having in reading. That is Tier 2 instruction. Tier 3 is intensive instruction. Okay, Tier 1, the teacher is working with the student in the classroom, identifying the needs of the student, moving on to Tier 2, which is small group, but Tier 1 and 2, they're just not working. So research says move on to Tier 3, small group. And some students may cease at that level, but if you see the intervention is not being successful, then Tier 3 is ongoing. Some of the procedures in place to collect this data were face-to-face interviews with teachers, colleagues, and the survey, of course, was completed by using Google Forms. Last, some of the findings that were common unto resolving the low reading scores at Yerger Elementary or in 7th grade were the universal screening. We currently use Renaissance Star, Male Star Reading. Okay, next, MTSS. That was a recommendation to use versus RTI, Intervention of Struggling Readers. And as stated, MTSS considers the behavior and the academics, whereas RTI just focuses on the academic. Also, for Tier 1 instruction, when you identify those students that you're using high-quality instructional materials that have been evidence-based research, that means they've been proven to work. Next, professional development for the teachers. And last, some of the findings were having an active library in the middle school, at Yerger Middle School. Ongoing findings, the survey results. The survey was distributed to colleagues at Yerger Middle School, and the majority of participants agreed that additional professional development is needed to actually implement RTI effectively at Yerger Middle School. Over 60% of the staff believe we could benefit from MTSS, which would the students would have academic and behavior intervention. So over 60% of the staff, when surveyed, recommended MTSS. And of course, the culture of learning, does a culture of reading exist at Yerger Middle School? And the staff was split. The final recommendations from the analysis of articles and all the research: number 1, screen all students for reading problems. Whether we're using Star Reading, Star Math, but screen them all. Number 2, provide differentiated instruction for all the students, remediation. Once those students are identified, they should be placed in remediation. Recommendation 3, Tier 1, which is whole class, moving on to Tier 2, which is small group. And 4th, progress monitoring. Okay, you've identified the students, you placed them in progress monitoring, but don't stop there. Make sure the students you're evaluating, you're monitoring to see if the students are progressing from the interventions that you have put in place. And number 5, use high quality instructional materials. Make sure these materials have been vetted per se, or they have been proven to work, or increase reading scores, low reading scores at Yerger Middle School. And last, this is a timeline developed for implementation to revolve the low reading scores at Yerger Middle School. Number 1, in August 2024, back to school, screen all students, identify the struggling readers, okay, and to prevent that gap that's constantly increasing. And we know summer will create that well-known summer slide where students lose that 20% of skills learned, whether it's in math or reading. So that's why we need to screen those students. Moving on, differentiation. Okay, it says Tier 2. Students should be enrolled in Tier 2 at least not once, but twice, but it says 3 to 5 times per week in order for it to be effective and be used with fidelity. Progress monitoring, it says at least once a month. Okay, so once those students are entering remediation and their intervention, you go in and make sure, see how they're progressing, what area, is it decoding they're missing, is it vocabulary, is it fluency? So you go in, or is it comprehension? Those are the 4 main areas of reading that you look for. And last, whole class instruction. Tier 1 instruction, that is one of the most important things. Okay, these are some of just the, and that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Roan. Next up, we will have Sheila Hobson. You're too happy about it. Come on, Ms. Sheila Hobson. Clap it up for Ms. Hobson as she comes. And board members, just so you know, as we're looking forward to next year, part of the ways that we're looking at progress monitoring is indeed quarterly assessments based on the standards. So some of the things that Ms. Roan was talking about is small innovations that we're looking to make next year. So I think Ms. Roan did a great job with her research, and just want to commend her for that.
Hello, everyone. The methods for improving reading at HHS. It's not working. Oh, well. Okay. The organization is Hope High School, grades 9 through 12. The enrollment is 630 students with 80% minority. The problem is solving why students have low scores on ACT Aspire for 9th grade reading at Hope High School in Hope, Arkansas. The reading is an overall problem. Overall testing rank, we're at the bottom 50% of the state with reading proficiency of 23%. And the 2022 and 23 school year, there were 147 ninth graders, and they scored in the need of 39%. Prior to the 3 years before, on average, there were 45% of our students were in need of support. Students are reading 2 grade levels or more below. There is a lack of reading comprehension. So with the research, discovered that the closing of the gap in reading comprehension needed to take place. The data indicates that by the time students reach high school, there's little progress in moving them forward with reading performance. So there's 3 strong indicators: rigorous coursework, purchasing materials, and planning time. So we need to make sure that we use HQMI. We need to make sure that we purchase materials that are research-based. And lastly, we need planning time to make sure that the things are executed. So when we think about struggling with reading comprehension, we think of struggling readers. So there are various ways that we can improve, but the most one that's important here is that most students become disengaged in reading and academics by the time they reach high school. So we need to provide vital support for academic reading and content knowledge. We need to incorporate reading strategies and instruction in all content areas. We need to make sure they have adequate, accurate, and fluent reading, word reading as they're going through this. But the big challenge is to provide instructional support and guiding practice. The research was done through a data collection in person and by phone, and the survey data was done through a Google form, which was an electronic survey. The findings of the research. In the interview, the majority of people feel that there should be some incorporated reading during the day with the students, and the text should be of the student's choice. That's to encourage them and motivate them to read. The program should be added to focus on specific reading comprehension skills, and it should be done with fidelity. The survey data results: 65% believe that a positive culture is needed. 47% believe that utilizing intervention programs is necessary. 57% believe that reading depends on how well the instruction matches the student's abilities. 60% of all teachers are responsible for an increase in reading scores. And lastly, 43% increase in reading information, text, and content areas in general education. That means that highly qualified materials that I'm speaking of, that students should have an opportunity to read that individually. So the recommendations are: number 1, develop protocols for the creation of a schedule for all teachers, which allows for independent reading time. Develop reading interventions based on collected data from formative and summative assessments. Provide reading strategies and reading comprehension professional development to all teachers. So that brought me to a timeline, and this to me is the most important part. The principal and the IF should work very closely together to make sure that these things are done with fidelity. Lesson planning including Tier 1 grade level. That should be done bi-weekly and throughout the year. Teaching essential standards, which should be a unit planned by the team. so we can all have discussions. Everybody can have discussions about that. Lesson of key reading comprehension strategies should be presented to the team before school starts so they can know what those strategies are to help move the students forward. Content report including time rotation of skill focus. There is text structure, there's academic vocabulary, and there are other strategies that should be utilized, and the teachers should have them and be sent a weekly calendar about what skill we're going to be working on that week. The schedule for the biweekly PLC meetings should be done by calendar invites so everyone is on the same page. PLC meetings should include agendas, notes, and sign-in sheets. There should be a schedule for all of that so in case when we get to the planning time, we can utilize subs so everybody will have somebody in the classroom to govern over. So then the materials, the websites, and the supplemental materials should be given and instructed by the principal to the teachers to let them know what materials will be available for them to use for the reading comprehension. And lastly, data, which is very important because data should drive instruction. We should utilize the data and have conversations about the data so that instruction can be individually done and intense for the students. Professional development schedule, the teachers need training in order to be able to do all of this with fidelity. So I read various articles and I have them listed here. My name is Sheila Hobson. I'm an instructional facilitator at Hope High School. And I would like to thank Dr. Crosley and the board for allowing us to have this program. I have learned various things that I think have helped me develop as a leader, and I would really, really feel a heart welcome and thank you to Portia Jones for all of her dedication to help us. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Hobson as she vacates the stage? She played that nicely. Okay, very nice. And next we have Carmen Galvin, instructional facilitator at Clinton Primary. Clap it up as Carmen comes down. All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Galvin. I'm an instructional facilitator at Clinton Primary. My recommendation is to solve the problem of loss of instruction at Clinton Primary in Hope, Arkansas. I did my research at William Jefferson Clinton Primary. It houses pre-K grades. It houses grades pre-K through 4th grade. We have about 900 students. Loss of instruction is the interruption of planned educational activities which can negatively impact students' learning and academic progress. The reason I chose to do loss of instruction is because I can better understand the challenges and develop effective strategies to ensure that all students receive the high quality education that they deserve. When I was doing the research, some of the literature reviews that I did talked about how COVID-19 was a huge impact of loss of instruction. We had no control over that. Teacher turnover during COVID, lots of teachers were leaving the education field. They didn't want to do it anymore. They felt lost. So then came the influx of non-traditional teachers. Also, classroom management. When I interviewed teachers and did the survey, they told me that if they don't have those high expectations at the beginning of the year, that's when they see a lot of their loss of instruction going on. And also, when you're teaching to whole group versus small group, times have changed so much that you're not only teaching whole group all the time, you also have to find out what each child needs and what they're needing to be successful. We have to plan our instruction to focus on each child and exactly what their challenges or what their needs are. Some of the interviews I did were face-to-face. When we ran out of time, they were like, can you email it to me? And I emailed the questionnaire. My survey data analysis was done through Google Forms. With the interview data results, Majority of the participants said that classroom management was a huge challenge for them. They said that if they didn't set those high expectations, if they did not let the students know what was expected of them or how they planned for their education to go. Adequate professional development training to teach content area. We have a lot of novice teachers, so they were pulled out of class to do trainings, novice year 1, 2, and 3, and even to continue our growing professional development. Testing, I don't know about everyone else, but I know elementary has a lot of testing, so trying to plan all your instruction around that. And pullouts. We have a lot of pullouts like ESOL, interventionist, dyslexia. So those were huge things that they were interfering in their loss of instruction. Again, with the survey data, one of the main things were student behavior disruptions, teacher absenteeism, and student absenteeism. My recommendation to solve the loss of instruction is to maximize instruction time, and that is by looking at the master schedule. And sometimes if you scheduled, like, for example, if you schedule activity and lunch and recess close together, that might be a 20-minute gap. Maybe scheduling it to have a maximized instruction time. Professional development and modeling by providing teachers the support of what bell-to-bell instruction looks like, and also showing them what is expected, what they're expected to do with that high-quality instruction. And data analysis. One thing is sometimes the teachers don't know what is needed to do for each child, so having them learn how to read the data and interpret it to better meet their students. The timeline, looking at the schedules, will be done in July. The professional development and the data analysis and the modeling would start in August, and it would be ongoing throughout the whole school year. And these are the articles that I use and referenced. And this is my information. I am an aspiring leader. I'm an elementary instructional facilitator. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to pull me to the side and ask. All right, thank you.
Hold on one second. Clap it up. Clap it up, Miss Galvin.
Look, I was
It's
trying to
applause
keep it
for Miss Hobson too, because she jetted out of here. So do you guys have any questions for Miss Hobson or Miss Galvin? I hope you, I see Dr. Jones in the back with a smile on her face. She's got 3 of her 5 aspiring leaders who are flying the coop, so to speak. Dr. Jones, I know there's no mic back there. Do you have anything that you'd like to say just for the... All right, clap it up again. shameless plug, cohort 2 coming soon, probably 3 to 5, maybe more. We'll see how it goes. Additional aspiring leaders for the upcoming group. All right, next up, Mr. Matlock, yes. Yes, ma'am.
So all of these presentations that y'all did tonight, is this something that you're gonna start implementing next year, or have you done any of it this year? Thank you.
All right, next up, so we do have quite a few presentations.
So next, we have 2 hours and 18 minutes. I'm going to do 312 slides on IPsec security. I'm kidding.
Little IT humor there. All right, next, HAPS. I think Mr. Herron and Ms. Marks are going to present. Today, the news came out from the HAPS TV news station today, just district-wide news. They're doing such a great job with digital literacy. So Marilyn, Ms. Marks had to punt earlier because I think they had a competition they were doing on the school presentations that we do monthly. But right now, Ms. Marks, you can go ahead and begin.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I promise you we do not have 200 slides. We will be very brief, and then Mr. Herron's going to explain some things on the new broadcasting program that we have. I just want to give you some highlights and information from our school year. This year with the new magnet grant, we were able to add digital literacy as our magnet focus as well as public service. And Mr. Herron has been a wonderful asset to our campus in revving up that digital literacy program. Our enrollment for this school year, we had approximately 219 students. Our projected enrollment for next school year is about 231 students. This year we went to the universal magnet application. We no longer do criteria such as grades, test scores, behavior, discipline, things like that. We worked at a first come, first served basis. We do about 60 seats per grade level. Our fifth grade group is going to be a little bit larger next school year, though. We're going to have about 65 students in our fifth grade group next school year. Okay, the campus curriculum that we currently use, Dr. Crosley and Ms. Roan both mentioned progress monitoring. This year we use STAR to do our beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessments, as well as the iReady program. If you have students on our campus, they may take iReady lessons home and work on them as well. And we also use the IXL program as well. At HAPS, we have early high school credit opportunities, and that is just so important to me because if we give students early high school credit in 8th grade, it sets them up to take concurrent credit once they get to high school. And it also sets them up to be completers once they get to high school as well. So currently this year, our 8th graders can take Algebra 1, Art 1, East, Survey of Business, and we are currently working on a waiver to take oral communications, to offer oral communications and debate to our 8th graders next year. And again, this is just such an important academic component that sets our kids up for success as they move on to high school. We mentioned progress monitoring and focus on student growth. Through our PLCs this year, we progress monitored our students very regularly. Our kids looked at data, our teachers looked at data. We made sure that we stayed on top of data all year long. From our beginning of the year to our middle year of the year assessments, we had 153 students to grow on their STAR reading scores. We had 154 students to increase their STAR math scores. We had 124 students to grow in both areas. And in focusing on that growth this year, we made sure we celebrated the growth. We asked kids, how do you want to be rewarded? And some of our kids said they wanted a Zen room. Some of them wanted outside recess. So we just made sure to reward growth to keep students going all year long. This year we also celebrated our BSA rating. We were celebrated at Southern Arkansas University at a reception through our ERZ and also our area co-op. Along with that, we were recognized by the Office of Educational Policy at the University of Arkansas Fayetteville for high growth overall statewide, high growth ELA statewide, high growth math, Southwest region, and high growth ELA for the Southwest region. My school improvement team and my staff members also worked together, and we went through the highly effective schools accreditation process this year. That was an intense process that we looked at our PLC groups and the steps that we're doing to drive academic success, and we were actually accredited in April of this school year as a highly effective school. Public service will always be the framework of our program. COVID really hit our public service efforts, so this year we really tried to ramp those up. We did several that are not listed, but just a few were our blankets for Arkansas Children's Hospital. With that project, we do it every year, but this year we tried to determine the why. So we had a parent of a child who had been at Arkansas Children's Hospital tell the importance of why those blankets were a comfort for the students, the kids that were there. We did several initiatives with Hope for Paws. We did cards for veterans. We did artwork for the downtown murals. We did a Christmas stuffed animal drive. We gave about 80 stuffed animals to Heather Manor, and our kids went and handed those stuffed animals out. That was an amazing process for them and for those residents. Our students also worked on the Spectrum of Light Autism 5K, which is coming up this weekend. They created t-shirts. My East kids created about 80 t-shirts and created the bags for that 5K run, as well as they will be working that 5K run as well. And our 8th graders, as a capstone project, visited the Clinton School of Public Service. And that was to help them take the things that they learned over the 4 years at HAPS and translate that into what kind of career can I possibly go to in public service. So that was a great opportunity for them. As I said, our digital cinema program got off the ground this year, and Mr. Heron is with me to kind of explain some of the classes that he did this year. This program made HAPS an alive campus. If you step into our campus, you may just see a student with a camera that's right there at the door, and kids all over the campus taking pictures. So it's really been a positive step for our campus this year. Mr. Heron?
Good evening. I'm Mr. Michael Heron, and I've had the privilege this year to kind of spearhead the digital cinema, digital journalism really is what it was. I've spent the past 14 years of my education career teaching music, and I was approached last spring with this opportunity. I said I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'll apply for it, and they handed it over to me. So this summer, I got the chance to visit D. Queen High School, who has this program up and running. And we got to sit down with their director, who was just awarded Teacher of the Year for the state of Arkansas. And so I asked him, I said, well, I'm doing 5th through 8th grade. Do you think 5th and 6th graders could do this? He said, no, I really don't think that's a good idea. So I brought it back and I did it. We spent the first several weeks waiting on our equipment, and we learned how to use our cameras. We learned how to use tripods. We learned about journalism, what it meant to be to ask the right questions, to take the right shots. We learned vocabulary like rule of thirds, wide, medium, tight, what a Waldo is. These were all things that I was spending hours of watching videos, reading, calling, asking questions to learn myself, and my kids were learning quicker than I was. I'm not going to talk a whole lot tonight. I would rather just show you some student examples. So this first one is an example of a news report that we put together. Ms. Ella Bramlett, she was here earlier, but they had to leave for something, but we'll let you check out this video from her.
The upcoming solar eclipse will mark the first event of its kind since 1918 and one that won't happen again until 2045. Laura Sisterhin, a pediatrician at Arkansas Children's Hospital, offers expert advice on how students can view the eclipse safely. Looking at a solar eclipse with the naked eye for even a second can cause permanent damage to the eye. Because there is less light during an eclipse, the iris is tricked into expanding the pupil to allow a dangerous amount of UV light in the eye. Looking at it through a telescope, binoculars, or a camera lens is unsafe because it concentrates the light much like a magnifying glass and causes even more damage. The only way to safely look directly at an eclipse is by wearing eclipse glasses with special lenses which have been certified. These are not the same as sunglasses. If the eclipse glasses have been scratched or damaged, they will not work to protect your eyes, so throw them out. This has been Ella Bramlett with HAPS TV.
Part of this has been sped up just for time's sake, obviously. But that's one of the facets of what we're working through that was ran in our daily announcements. Speaking of daily announcements, one of the big jobs that we had for this year was putting together an entire news studio. So currently my classroom serves as a regular classroom for 2 periods, and then my broadcasting class comes in, moves all the desks, sets up an entire news studio, records, and then puts the classroom back together for a 4th period class. And they have done such a fantastic job with that. However, I think the proud moment for me is the fact that I don't have to be there for this to work. My kids have learned how to do it themselves. In fact, most of the time my sub-reports say, sit back, relax, and enjoy the chaos. And it does seem like chaos for a minute or two, but once the things are done and uploaded, I think you'll see here what goes on. Our daily news includes the pledge and the motto that we do every single day. Usually we do some daily facts or history facts. Sometimes we throw those in there. They have our announcements. We acknowledge student birthdays. The lunch menu's on there. We even do weather. And then if there's a special broadcast report like the one you just saw, we'll tack that in there as well. So I'm going to show you one of our daily news announcements. This one ran not too long ago. Again, it is sped up in certain areas just for time's sake. This is one that the kids recorded themselves.
Good morning and welcome to HAPS TV. My name is Sonny Munoz.
And I'm Giovanni Pisa. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The kids always get kicked out of that.
Let's try to everything matters, everyone counts. Thank you. You may be seated. For lunch today, we'll have chicken fajita tacos, cilantro lime brown rice, Italian sausage pizza, mini chicken corn dogs, and ham and cheddar chef salad.
Here, yesterday's birthdays we missed Esteban Balbuena, Parker Timothy's dad, Michael Brentley Davis, Jason Magdaleno Pacheco. Now let's head over to Emmanuel for weather.
Expect our weather for today to be cloudy and rainy and maybe a little sunny. I expect some similar weather for tomorrow. And now following that, starting on Wednesday, expect the weather to be partly sunny and partly cloudy. Now let's get back to sunny and good weather.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We still have a few yearbooks left. Grab yours while supplies last and fill them with memories. See Mr. Aaron to get your copy.
Today is when we will have 4th grade tours. They will be on campus from 8:30 to 9:30 to observe some classes and to see how things work over here. Please do your best to represent HAPS well.
A huge congratulations to the Hope Bob teams that represented us in the past week in Dallas, Texas for the VEX World Competition. Let's hear a quick word from Mr. Bourne about the trip.
I feel happy about the situation that was able to make the Worlds, and it was a pretty good experience meeting different people from different countries and stuff.
I felt very happy and lucky that I was able to compete at the World Competition.
I feel so happy that we won a trophy, the first trophy we won from Worlds.
I felt beyond proud that teams from Hope in their second or third year, mostly second year, were able to go to Worlds, compete with the best teams from over 50 nations, and bring home a trophy out of winning the World Championship trophy was won in our division. And our teams competing with that team and against that team was able to bring home a trophy of their own.
The last day of school is May 29th. Attendance is very important and absences still count.
That's all the news we have for you today. Check out some of these upcoming dates.
And thank you for watching.
Have a great day.
So we always end with a little quote just for inspiration. And that young lady that you saw up there, she's a fifth grader of ours. When we started the year, before we had our equipment, we did the announcements over the intercom. And this sweet, quiet little Yaneli, she offered to do it. And so she always ended with that right there. So when we started doing the videos, we didn't have her. We had a lot of people request her back. So she ends every single one of our broadcasts currently. It wouldn't be digital journalism if we just did news. So we also dove into photography as well. And I put cameras into all these kids' hands, which was absolutely crazy, but we did it. And we gave them scavenger hunts for them to go and find things around campus. And not only that, but they brought them back, imported them onto the computers, and they used professional. We don't use cheap free stuff. We got professional software to edit these photos. So I'm going to play another quick video. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit for time's sake, but these are photos taken by 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. Board, I have 3 up there for you guys to look at as well. Those are all 5th graders, by the way, and 1 7th grader. I have a different kind of mindset when it comes to teaching. I don't sit there and tell the kids exactly what they're supposed to do and give them all the information. I give them the assignment and the bare minimum and let them figure the rest of it out. I'm always there to help solve solutions. And so the first couple of days of photography, there was a lot of solving solutions. But then the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's almost fair that I got paid for it because I really didn't have to do a whole lot. The kids took it and ran with it. And there are some absolutely fantastic photos up there. And the 3 that we have up there, we're submitting for awards come fall. If you'll allow me time, I got just 2 more quick videos to show you. Another part of digital journalism is not just news, but it's also advertisement. And so I gave the kids an opportunity to select a product of their choosing and then opened my classroom up and said, all right, it's yours. And they came in, they used lighting, they used effects, they used the cameras. They did all of the editing. Again, the software we use for video editing is the same software that Netflix uses for all of their movies. But it's also the same software that was used for the most recent Star Wars movie as well. It's called DaVinci Resolve. And so they're using, again, professional grade level software. So here's a commercial that was created by 3 sixth graders. That soda sat on my desk for a week. It was so hard not to drink it. But and the last kind of assignment that we've opened up is, I said a short film. That's all I said. I gave them 70 prompts they could choose from. The last one was make up your own, and that's it. So they wrote the scripts, they filmed it, they edited it, they produced it. So this next clip is a chase scene by a couple 7th graders that they did, and I didn't touch it at all. This is 100% their film. So enjoy the chase. So that's just a little bit of what we've done this year. Our next steps is hopefully we'll find a dedicated space where we can leave our studio set up. That'll give us more time to do more special projects. As you can see, we were able to get a couple of the students off campus to do some filming. I'd like to do a lot more of that in the future. The last project that we were able to get reinstated this year was our yearbook. So we did bring our yearbook back. So that was a success. I'm really proud of those kids. I have a copy here for a board member to have if you would like. I do have some more copies at the back. They're $20 if you'd like to buy one. So thank you.
All right, any questions for Ms. Marks or Mr. Herron? I know that was kind of multi-pronged in the presentation, but I think it was a presentation well done. Any questions? All right, next up we have Miss Sally Nix, who will be presenting the Hope Collegiate Academy update. So we're heading into a new year. Just got some new numbers. We're looking at over 50 applications so far for the entering 10th graders. I think 32 or 33 that are fully qualified right now, maybe a couple more coming. And then we'll see if we can't have the largest 10th grade cohort in this coming class. So Miss Nix, who, will be retiring at the end of this year. So clap it up for Sally. I know you've been in the system for a long, long time and love this job and done such a wonderful job with it. So without further ado, Ms. Nix.
The first thing that Mickey had to leave, she had a graduation to go to with people that are kin to her. She missed something else because she had a nephew pitching at state baseball and they won. So that's exciting. That's a good trip. So the first thing that she wanted to do was to thank the school board for supporting the Collegiate Academy, and we really appreciate that. This was the 4th graduating class of seniors, and we had 23 students who graduated with their associate's degree, and 3 are going to UCA, 2 are going to A-State, 1 to Henderson to play in the band, 3 to SAU, 1 to Apex Dental Assisting School so that she can get her certification to do that, to work her way through dental school or dental hygiene school. So that's kind of a 2-tiered thing for her. 2 to Texas A&M Texarkana, 1's going to play softball. 1 to the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith, and 9 are going to UA Fayetteville, and 1 is going into the workforce. So that's our 23 students, and this makes 75 students that have graduated now over the past 4 years with an Associates of Arts degree. In 2 years, the students save over $18,000 by attending the Collegiate Academy, and that's just an average. That's not the most expensive or the cheapest either. Some of the senior class highlights: Axel Yost received an Engineering Career Awareness Program scholarship for minorities, and only 85 are awarded each year, and he also received the Governor's Distinguished Scholarship, which is 2 are given to each county if people qualify, and Hempstead County only had 1 qualify, and that was Axel. A very nice young man, very quiet. Tara Henry and Amber Cisneros got the 2024 UAHT Student Government Association Chancellor's Award on campus. Tara Henry, Katie Arroyo, Edith Dominguez, and Amber Cisneros got the 2024 Student Government Association President's Awards for their outstanding leadership, commitment, and academic excellence. Tara Henry received the Arkansas State University's most prestigious scholarship, the A-State Scholarship. Only 35 are awarded each year, and that's a big school. Jordan Brooks and Jose Martinez were accepted into the highly competitive summer residential program for business leadership at the UA Fayetteville. Kayla Wyatt was accepted into UCA's Honor College. I do feel like I have a part in that because she booked some office time with me to practice interviewing her, and she had researched what kinds of questions they would ask, and that was a nice little hour and a half spent going over it and practicing. Aaliyah Washington is signed band with HSU, and I've already said Grace Trogger's playing softball at Texarkana, so that's close enough to go see. All the students transferring received a scholarship at their transferring institution, so all their classes they took here, thanks to you all, do transfer to their 4-year college, and some of them are even planning what's coming after that 4-year degree. So we're real excited about that. Applications are open until June 3rd. All test scores and applications have to be submitted by that time. We have 51 applicants right now. And collegiate numbers for the coming year: 12th grade 15, 11th grade 17, and 10th grade we do not know yet until they do. And that was Mickey's part, and I asked her, I said, you got all the good statistics. What am I going to get to say? So I am going to splurge just a second and try to make it through what I have to say. You need to come make faces at me or something. My favorite things. My favorite things about the Hope Collegiate Academy program: that it is housed on the UAHT campus. The atmosphere is truly a college atmosphere and gets them used to behaving in a more mature manner for college. I love that it is a 3-year program which teaches them to commit to their chosen path and to stick to it to the end. I love that we teach them to navigate through procedures of attending college, using IDs, notifying staff and faculty if you're going to be late or absent, high expectations from college professors, even if they're just teaching high school level. It's not even a college class. It's really high expectations, but they're good. They're reachable. This gets them ready for the work world, showing up, having their IDs, being on time. There's a huge reduction in absenteeism and tardies because of this. To advocate for themselves with professors, to seek help through office hours of the teachers, to get their own tutoring when they have problems. Time management, following schedules and tests, and using Blackboard. The teachers don't have to remind them over and over again what's due. They have a list and they know what they need to do. Teaching them accountability for their own work. They do have assignments outside of the class, which can be done at home, in the library, or in a classroom in our wing. They figure out the time and the place for how they're going to get their assignments done. And weekly grade checks. It's one of the things I love, because after all, they are still kids, and they need that adult with them. Students have shown during their first year how to handle their own business on a college campus. We are there to guide, advise, and assist in that learning process. During their 11th and 12th grade years, they do not hesitate to come back and ask questions if they have them when things pop up. From FAFSA to scholarships and college applications, we assist, but we do not do the work. I often talk with past graduates of Fayetteville, not just your daughter, but I talked to all of them when they hit town, Fayetteville, Arkansas Tech, wherever they went. And my request of them is always, tell me about life. As they tell me about their life at college, my heart wells up with pride as I hear them speak about situations from finances to professors, which they have had to maneuver at college, jobs they have taken that they took them because they knew they'd still have time to study, but they needed a little extra money for coming home. These things and plans that they're making for after this degree, for their careers. This just makes my heart proud. We talk about assessing our teaching, and this is a huge assessment of what we are accomplishing at HCA, what you all are accomplishing by allowing that to happen. These situations always include the skills they learned from HCA being housed on the UAHT campus. I love it. They are really ready for what life has to offer them, and I'm thrilled. After teaching high school math and then becoming a counselor, I have spent the last 14 years of my 32 years in education working right here in Hope Public Schools. Thank you for giving the students the opportunity to be a part of the HCA, and thank you for allowing me to work for HCA for the last 5 years.
I have a comment.
Thank you. If I can do anything for anybody coming in, I said, I want to volunteer with the little leg huggers. They sound so cute. That if I can ever do anything, I'll be glad to do it, and I can't do anything but sing praises for this is a well laid out plan, and it is working, and it's tested every day and proving that it's working.
All right, so next up, we have the last presentation before we get to action items will be Gretchen, Ms. Gretchen Carlton, who'll be coming with the school-based health center. And so kind of to your point, there are so many things going on inside of our school district, and as the school year comes to a close, there are some days where I feel like I touch almost every aspect of the superintendency or the school district, and there's no doubt today's board meeting, you as board members will touch almost every aspect of the school business. So thank you for your patience. Ms. Carlton?
Okay, it's been a while. So I come here tonight, I'm here to let y'all know about some things that are going on at the Bobcat Clinic. I talked to Dr. Crosley, was that last week? Oh, it was, yes. Anyway, we've included in your report, the first quarter report, goes to the state. It shows the number of visits. It also breaks down like the top 5 medical diagnoses and then the behavioral health diagnosis. And also, he passed this out to you. I think it's in your packet. And it shows you where we started and where we are now. And just to kind of give you a little reassurance that we are over there trying to make a difference. The state, let's see, what's the, not ADE, DESE, is sending down a production crew next week. The Bobcat Clinic is going to be featured. We're going to be one of 4 different clinics throughout the state of Arkansas that they're using for a promotion video that they're going to be showing at some point, I think on their website and various other locations. So we're really excited about that. One of the reasons they chose our clinic is because we have a very strong immunization program, and also we're one of the only ones in the state that actually has 2 behavioral health companies that work out of our clinic. And so it's different, and it works for us. And they were, like I said, they come down, the Department of Health and the Department of Ed come down together the day that the governor come down. So we had them over there at the clinic while she was at, I think, Burl Henry. Anyway, that's one of the big things that we have going on. And also, we have recently, actually, I just handed Misty the check a while ago, received a over $17,000 grant from the Office of Oral Health to be used for the clinic. One of the things that Dr. Crosley and I talked about is we do have the Link Dental services provided, but we know that we need to boost that program up. We're not quite sure how exactly the funds are going to be used. We're still in the planning phases of that, but the end result will be what's best for the students and the clinic combined. And also, we're hoping by the start of the school year to have some kind of plan in process for our Linked, to be able to offer Linked Vision services. And I don't know if you're familiar with what the Linked services consist of, but basically it's services that you can register for through the clinic. The clinic notifies the dentist office or the behavioral health office that you have requested their services, and then once you're established with them, then if it's during school time and we're notified, arrangements can be made for transportations to get you there or to get you back to your campus, so hopefully the minimal loss of instructional time. And Sally's a hard act to follow. I don't know. I have nothing else to offer you. If you have any questions, though, this is a report that's, like I said, submitted every quarter, and I'd be more than happy to share anything else with you that you need. We're good?
I'll say thank you because I was here. I just gotten on the board when they started the clinic over there. So thank you for all you do and all you've done up to this point. It's important and vital to our kids.
Very welcome. Our goal is to keep the students as healthy as they can be, and also we've started, as you can see on that sheet, providing more services to community members, and that's slowly starting. We haven't really advertised it a whole lot, pushed it, because of course our students is our first priority. But thank you. We like what we love what we do.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gilbert?
Yes. So next up, we'll have an action item with Ms. Dina Gilbert. Some of it is informational, but we do need a vote. So basically, it's time to decide on food status, whether it's Provision 2, CEP. Dina's going to explain some of that. We need a vote to continue on with CEP. She's going to give you some of the social indicators and things that are going on around social services data and kind of some of the things that we're going to do about that. So Ms. Gilbert, without further ado.
I have a big enough mouth, I don't need that, but to me, the CEP program has been one of the best programs that we have done for our community. Unfortunately, due to a lot less number of participants on SNAP, our percentages for the coming school year has dropped 20%.
Context, that's pretty much across the state.
Yes.
So and 20 is not even the largest gap. There's some that are pushing 40. And so Hot Springs is down maybe 30-something%. And that's just over the last 3 years, that's been a reality.
Yes.
So I have a question regarding.
Okay.
The reduction in the SNAP program, was that legislative action or a combination of several?
I think it's a combination. Minimum wage was raised. The income level on SNAP was not. So a lot of people don't qualify anymore. My understanding is they got some kind of new system. There were people on there that they had expired a year or so ago, and they are no longer receiving them. So with the CEP, we've kind of dropped since we started, but this coming school year, we dropped drastically. So where I've been claiming 79.77% free, I'm going to drop to 58.43. I do have enough in my balance to go another year and cover our expenses. But it's not going to be something that we can sustain long term. We're probably going to look at possibly going back to an application process. We would have to do that 1 year. And then if we've got our free and reduced high enough, we can go to a program called Provision 2, which would be kind of like CEP. The state's paying the reduced. That's kind of first. I think last year was the first year for that. And then we could, with my balance, I think, support our paid kids not having to pay. So that's what I'm really hoping we can, look at in the future. Dr. Crosley and I have been throwing around a lot of ideas. We did feel staying with CEP 1 more year because we get these percentages April 1. And that does not give us time to get out and start working with parents on, you haven't done an application in 12 years, we got to start back. So it's going to take some getting out and getting parents back on board, and getting them to turn in these applications. I was 80 and 90% per campus before we went to CEP. So,
Are we saying that everyone in the program now that's supposedly qualified, we're going to have to reapply everyone? When you
For
say
CEP?
Yes, if we move back to
this was a year we had to renew. So we had to look at our April 1 numbers. And unfortunately, our direct certified students fail. That has been all over the state. So it's
Can I interject really quickly?
Sure.
So again, there's an answer to the first question you asked, Mr. Powers. The short answer to that is, the federal or state question. This is a federal calculation on direct certification numbers, which has shifted a little bit. And so inflation has spiked some. Unemployment has went down some, but how folks are feeling in their paycheck and in their pocketbook and everything has not drastically changed. So you have folks who are feeling that same squeeze that they may have been feeling 7, 8, 9 years ago. That same squeeze is there, and yet the direct certification number has gone down. And so we're one of those districts that has typically a high free and reduced lunch population. Ms. Gilbert is right. I would find, we would be hard pressed to not have 88, 89%. And so here is kind of where we are. So this is late in the game. The numbers just came out. That's just what it is. I fundamentally, and this is an I statement, I fundamentally believe, and I think Ms. Gilbert agrees, if we're going to have kids here every day and educating them to the best of our ability, we should be providing ways for them to eat. Okay? I think we just should. And so we also have a high free and reduced lunch population, which I think makes it doubly important to provide a nutritious, high-quality meal or meals for students. And so continuing that track for CEP, for breakfast and lunch, and even maybe a snack program for after-school clubs to still be in effect with no cost makes a great deal of sense. But then unless the direct certification calculation changes, which there's no guarantee that it will, or as Ms. Carlton and I were talking about, upping the Medicaid enrollment, which we're going to try to do with some targeted things in the summer and in the fall, because just because they were rolled off the Medicaid roster does not mean they don't qualify. It just means they're off the roster for now. So we're going to take some targeted steps to do that, but then on the back end of all that, we may end up doing applications even still, because truly that impacts a lot of funding sources. Mr. Madlock was, talking about how that impacts E-rate, that impacts title funding, that impacts food services. Even on some level, that impacts our ESA state funds. If we get above 90% free and reduced lunch, which I think we're knocking on that door, to be quite honest with you, our ESA funding goes up dramatically. And so I wanted Ms. Gilbert to have some time with you today to educate the board a little bit on this. The recommendation is to continue with CEP definitely for this next year, but we were doing the math on this. This may actually, I think we'll have some cost savings, but low estimate maybe $200,000, high estimate maybe $360,000 is what this is going to cost us next year because of the direct certification change. from 79 to 58 is about a $360,000 differential potentially. And we think some of the rebates and other things will be fine. And Ms. Gilbert does carry a balance. She does a great job with that. So we'll be able to absorb that while looking at longer term planning. But we need a vote from you guys to continue the CEP plan for next year as we work out any additional measures.
The CEP program has been one of the best programs. Ms. Gilbert knows that I've been a big supporter of that for a long time. And Dr. Crosley, from my position on the board, any way to continue to feed our students without cost to their parents is an advantage in going to the Hope Public Schools. And that should be explored to the last penny. I know Ms. Gilbert does great with our budget, but if we have to supplement it to get it done, I would be in favor of doing that. Now, I'd like to make a motion that we accept Ms. Gilbert's proposal for her to cover the cost this year.
It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we go ahead and continue the CEP for 24-25. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And we have unanimous vote.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Next up, we have the very patient certified or classified personnel policy committee with Reverend Hunter as the chairman. We have some joint recommendations that we'd like to discuss, and then we have a slight difference on a couple recommendations. But Reverend Hunter, if you would like to begin maybe with the joint recommendations, and then we can go from there. Sound good? The differences? Okay, then I'll present the others. Sound good? Okay, so we'll start. So in your package, you'll see the superintendent's recommendations. Those superintendent's recommendations have been worked on with the classified personnel policy committee. The only differences are two. The two differences are the bus driver salary schedule. And so they went ahead, the CPPC went ahead and made a vote, I don't know if it was a month or month and a half ago, about increasing bus driver salary. I believe that is a fine thing to do. I think the timing of that might be off by a year, or I don't want to say two, I want to say a year, because what we're looking at doing next year is experienced teacher salary increases, paraprofessional increases, bus driver increases, and potentially some other classified positions as well, which could include secretarial staff. But we're looking at it more comprehensively. I think we'll have a better idea of where we're going to fall on a regular budget year with the adjustments for per pupil funding and the assessment of our local property taxes to be able to make an educated piece there. And so we have kind of jointly discussed that. They're still bringing that proposal, so you'll bring that proposal. We disagree on that one for now. And then there's another one around the RIF recall policy that is different. The RIF recall policy that I'm putting forward is the one that is the same one as the certified personnel policy committee agreed upon. I think it would be prudent to have the same policy for certified and classified there, and we discussed that at length. I don't think we're too far apart on that, but just maybe enough to have it be a separate recommendation. The rest of it are slight modifications or updates with ASBA, including the tech policy from certified and classified that we kind of changed a little bit around reasonable care of devices. So we agree on everything except for those two pieces, even increases slightly in some additional duty that certain classified folks may do. So.
Okay, to start with the bus drivers, what was going on with the bus drivers is many of the drivers were unhappy with the level of pay. So we had to consider what other school districts were doing. We looked at Texarkana, we looked at Ashdown, we looked at Prescott, we looked at Arkadelphia, Malvern, Nashville. We looked at several schools. Then we also looked at Magnolia. And Magnolia is basically where the bus drivers settled on trying to compare to their salary schedule. We do have two other salary schedules that would be even higher than Magnolia. That would be Warren and Watson Chapel. When we look at that schedule that you have in your packet, you see there Hope, and then you also see Magnolia. Magnolia's salary schedule is 13 steps. They got number 1 right there on 0 experience. But we starts off with 0 experience and then goes up to 24 years experience. What you see over to the far left of your page there is what we are recommending on the base. That we recommend $500 to the base, and then we also recommend and proposing $75 increase to the experience increments. And when you look at that, you can see over to the far right the difference that would make between Hope and Magnolia. Hope would still be below what Magnolia is doing. Over there under differences, you see where the 0 experience, that would be $1,174 difference in favor of Magnolia. At the top of their schedule, which is 13 steps, the difference there between Hope and Magnolia at 12 years would be $2,695. So that's the difference between Hope and Magnolia. And when the bus driver saw this, they wanted to be comparable to Magnolia. When we looked at that, I don't know, you might have that color-coded chart. Okay, on that color-coded chart, that what's in green, it represents that schedule that I just referred to. That is what we are recommending. You see the $44,437.34. That's what it would cost the district to do that particular schedule. You also see over there in orange, if we were going to be comparable to Magnolia, we would have to look at something like $1,500 to the base, and that would be $75,000, going above $75,000. So on that, we thought that in the green would be the best option. What you are seeing in the blue is comparable to last year's raise, or previous year's raise at 6%. So all three of those, the blue, the green, and the orange, represents a different level for Hope increase. But then on the orange is where Magnolia is. And Ms. Flowers, she did that chart when we were coming up with what we wanted to propose. So in looking at that, I hope that we can at least consider that raise because the bus drivers, they were pretty adamant about wanting additional pay. We met with them, I met with them, and Mr. Morrison, we met with them in November, and we came up with this after we started doing some research on other schools.
And I just would interject really quickly. So last year, we did the 6% across the board for classified, and then we also did the rate shift and change, which I think was a positive one. Instead of going per trip, going by the hour when it comes to some of that for the additional pay. There's a lot of bus drivers who run those additional routes, and there's some additional compensation that comes to that as well. So I think last year we did make a few shifts in that process.
If this is going to be an action item, I don't know what you want to do with this particular, at this point.
So take those separately. So there's that separate issue, and then there's the reduction in force issue as well. So the reduction in force issue is, I'll reiterate, we have the RIF recall piece. So the recall in the original policy, options were no recall at all. There's a RIF process, there's no right to the job, period, kind of end of sentence. And then you have a 2-year stair step to definitively have the job. Well, we worked with Certified Personnel Policy Committee and landed on kind of a modified version of that to where you are allowed to have an interview by default in the policy up to a 2-year period. So the job may not necessarily be yours if there is a RIF. There's the interview process to hire the best person for the job that the Certified Personnel Policy and I worked with and the board approved last month. And so the recommendation from me to you on that is to be consistent with the certified policy to where it's not a mandated placement in a job, but it is mandated if they would like up to 2 years for an interview for any position that they're qualified for. I'll let you discuss that, but the Classified Personnel Policy Committee, we saw eye to eye on a lot of it, but ultimately went the other way, I think, from the classified group, and you can present that.
Right. When we talking about the recall, the ASBA sent the 2 options. One, that there would be no right to recall, and the other was a right to recall, which basically gives the employee up to 2 years to be recalled. And after that recall would take place, we think that a person who's been in that position, a person who has proven to be qualified for that position, should be considered first. You know, they lost their job doing the job here. So loyalty, I think, to that person that lost their job and they were qualified for that job, had certification for that job in some instances, they should be considered first. It looks like to me, and not saying that this would actually happen, but it could be a subjective ideal when you're talking about just a right for interview, you know, because you can choose a person that you were impressed with more during the interview than someone who has proven themselves already in the district. Several classified positions, you know, they have a need for certification. As a bus driver, we have to be, you know, certified to drive as far as a license to do that. As a, you know, a maintenance person, they need certifications for that. The bus mechanics, they have license, they certified for what they do. The nurses, they're certified for what they do. So we have all of these different entities with different requirements, and if a RIF should come, it would probably more than likely hit the classified first. So when classifieds are moved, we just would like to see them having a privileged position to be recalled if there's a RIF.
And Reverend Hunter and I discussed, I believe that sentiment as well up to the point of possession of the job. So I think the interview process would not be quite as subjective as classified personnel policy is kind of insinuating. I think there would be an adequate interview process, and there would be skills and experience would be taken into consideration for that. And so just kind of the idea of hiring the best person for the position. And we hope we never have to have a RIF. We hope that's not something that we lean into actively as we are right-sizing the district every time there's a retirement or a resignation or whatever the case may be. This really is just us being proactive if anything was to ever happen.
Right. And I would just hope that loyalty would be an issue as well.
Yep. Yeah. So everything else we kind of agree on. We went through the policies in 2 phases. Those are the 2 that are different. So I guess the process could be if you wanted to approve or discuss the joint piece, the joint packet that has all the items and modifications beside these 2. And then these 2 items could be voted on separately, whether it's the superintendent's recommendation or the CPPC recommendation. Yes, ma'am.
For
concerned. Will we be in a good place as far as financial considerations to consider this improvement?
For next year?
Yes.
I'm not in a position to recommend that for this year, but I could be in a position to recommend it for next year. Because the idea would be multiple employee groups, including experienced teachers, would fall into this larger, more broad increase. And so at the end of this year, following into September, we'll have a better idea of kind of where we're falling from our staffing model, per pupil funding, and even in declining funds that we may have because of enrollment. And some of the additional ARP money will be expired, and so that cost savings there will be going away. And then I think we can make a really educated decision on multiple employee groups instead of one at this time. But there are some increases that we agreed on, right? There's certain things. I think there's the classified
Extra duty.
Lead teacher position for the clubs that we said, okay, that makes good sense. They're leading a club. They should be paid at this rate. And even had some good back and forth about bus aides as well. So there's been really, I'll just say, we may disagree on these two items. We've had a really good discussion along the way about all of it.
It was a huge packet, and you were with us in 2 of the meetings and 1 with myself.
Right.
Dr. Crossley, I'm uncomfortable with step increases for one group when we have paras and teachers sitting out there without step increases. That makes me uncomfortable. I think there's a possibility of compromise here where we address the base without the steps and revisit the steps for all 3 groups after we know more.
I would agree.
Well, that's what I'm looking for, Dr. Crossley, is for you to put something out here that's a little less contentious, but still falls within your parameters for what's prudent to do right now and where we go from here. I wouldn't have any problem at all raising the base tonight. I would vote against steps because we don't have them for teachers or paras.
So we do have steps for paras. It's just a different, right. And so, like I said, I agree with that sentiment. In my mind, that's why we do it next year. If you were suggesting or wanting to bring something that's more comprehensive tonight, I'm not prepared with a comprehensive for all, really 4 employee groups tonight. I potentially could be, but that would be a contract shift and adjustment that I'm sure would open us up for some things there. But I do agree, looking at it comprehensively is where I want to be, and I'm committing to being there on something for next school year, earlier than later. So we'll really know, I would imagine, somewhere closer to February, but even before then, starting to work on that before we even get out for Christmas break, having a good idea what that could look like.
I did consider just what he suggests here, and if there was no increase in the steps, it would be a little over $14,000 as opposed to 44.
Yeah, the blue is the 6% increase. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he was talking about base. You don't have a problem with 500 to the base. Yeah. So the blue is 6%. But then if you take out the step increase, that would be $75 what we are proposing. If that came out, it would be a little over 14,000.
Right. That's
Right.
what the blue is.
Right. Right. 528.
And then if you're looking at percentage increase across all employee groups, I think it would be, as about to say Representative Hoagland, school member Coach Hoagland kind of mentioned, looking at different employee groups, I think would be prudent to do that as well. Because we did, all classified groups did receive a 6% raise last year, and we did increase and change the trip structure for bus drivers last year. So, and I'm with it, trust me. I've talked to Mr. Morrison about this a lot. I've talked to you about this a lot. I mean, we want to honor our bus drivers, and we have done that, not just with words, but with action. Looking at it in an even more comprehensive way, I would need more time with other employee groups if that action was going to take place for next school year. But I am committed to working to some end for an increase for those groups for the following year. Yes, ma'am. There was an increase by 6%. Yes, ma'am, last year. And then we also did a trip change from per trip to hourly. So it used to be $19 per trip, and now it's $23 hourly, which in many ways is going to be double the amount that they would make per trip for activities, et cetera. So we could take the joint. If we feel good about the joint, we can discuss that at length. There's a lot of modified items in there, but they're mainly ASBA modifications. And then there's the two separate items that we do differ on at this juncture. For contract processes, the short answer is no. It doesn't have to be, but in terms of doing things prudently, I would kind of push you on that a little bit, maybe from my seat. But you can do whatever. I mean, truly. I mean, we'll do whatever we need to do. I think the policy updates, though, to give us some direction would be great if we could do that now. I would agree.
I have a comment while we're deciding all this stuff. On the RIF program, I was at the very beginning of the Gulf War when the military did a big RIF on soldiers. And you're right, Reverend Hunter, those soldiers did get a chance to get back, and we lost a lot of experience. A lot of people were basically killed in combat or lost the idea of mission because they didn't have that experience. So I agree with you on the portion of the RIF. There needs to be an obligation or an agreement to those people who have been dedicated and sold out to this district or to the state that they have an assurance that if something happens to them, they can be able to have an afforded opportunity to come back. So I agree with that. Thank you. Yes, and so we literally on purpose created a third way that incorporates interview processes and fit for position versus just being recalled for hire. I will say in my previous district as assistant soup, I lived this out in Pine Bluff, and there was a lot of heartache associated with mandatory recall. Because while there comes a great deal of experience and some wonderful things and loyalty and all of those things, in some cases, that's not always the best fit for a given position, whether it's just experience or attitudinally or you name it. And I think the right to have an interview is something that I'm certainly comfortable with, and that's the same policy that the certified agreed to last month.
with that, first,
Well, the way that recall policy that we are proposing works is the person had to be qualified for the position they would be recalled to. And if they have worked in the district and have experience in those areas, then I would think, yeah, they should be recalled, period. You know, as far as, you know, they have 2 years to consider that. And then after the 2 years, then of course the notification goes out, and then the response is to come in.
And certification, so that we've talked about this in CPPC and PPC. It's a little different across the two areas. It's actually, I think Reverend Hunter painted it a little bit more stringent. I think it's a little bit more broad because you could have multiple certifications for basic positions that require basic educational levels. So, for example, secretarial position, maintenance position, and paraprovost, secretary, and maintenance could all technically fall within the same general category. Bus driver, you gotta have a CDL, so that's a little different. Bus mechanic, we're looking for a different certification there. But the others, there could be some bleed over if someone is riffed in a position and then rehired for another. Kind of like you would if you were in a certified position and you were an assistant principal and then you get hired to teach social studies or something. There would be that dual certification that you would have had along the way. And to do that without an interview, I think, I don't feel comfortable with at this juncture, especially since the PPC agreed to the other policy.
If I may say that it's not just mandatory recall, but it's based also on points. And these employees have been evaluated over the time they served.
So I've not been a part of one here at this district, but it primarily would have been on experience and educational levels. That's kind of the ASBA model. It has shifted now to where it's required to be evaluation-based as well. So that was kind of in the LEARNS Act. So the number one indicator will be performance, and then after that, other factors can be considered. So going forward, it would be performance number one, and then experience and education levels and those sorts of things would have lesser point values, but be factored in. And we have mandatory certified evaluations every year, so we can definitely have those to go from, or classified, excuse me. We can. I wouldn't, the time on that does matter, though. It would be an adjustment to the overall contract, which would open up a window for folks to be able to make decisions on their employment. And I think not making a decision on that or not having a direction could be a difficult thing.
Can I make a motion to approve the agreed upon proposals between classified and superintendent, classified personnel policies? Along with, that excludes the bus driver schedule and RIF?
And RIF, correct.
And RIF. So we could come back and take those one at a time or do whatever the board wants to do, but let's get the ones we agree on out of the way, if that's okay. That's my motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Mr. Powers, that we accept the things that we agree on. Those in favor show by a show of hands. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when you said when we agree on, what are you talking about? I understand.
The superintendent and the,
Personnel.
personnel policy holders. Yes. Those in favor show by show of hands. And we have unanimous vote. And we'll do the others separately.
Correct. Right, and just to be clear, I'm recommending no change on the bus driver schedule at this juncture. And then the PPC is recommending the same, the 500 to the base, correct? Not at this point, no. Yes, so I'm looking at a comprehensive increase for multiple employee groups next year. So hopefully much before this time next year, maybe even before spring break, looking at experienced teacher pay. So I count that as being starting maybe at 10 years and more experience after that. Because with the LEARNS Act, there was a $2,000 increase from kind of where we were beforehand. I don't want that to be our reality going forward, and so I'm looking at an increase there. Our paraprofessional, I even ran the numbers with Ms. Flowers on basically an $1,800 increase to the base for parapros earlier in the year. That is a couple $100,000, and so we don't pay for a lot of parapro salaries out of our operational budget. Mainly those are out of ESA and title or other categorical funds, which allows us to be fiscally responsible while also having the help in the classrooms that we need. So we have a declining allocation because of funding and different things, the direct cert numbers that we were talking about. I'm just not comfortable making a broader sweep of an increase, and considering that we just had a 6% increase for all classified last year and modified the trip structure for more pay last year, I don't feel comfortable at this time putting that forward. I will be comfortable with actual numbers, I would say, at the latest, April of next year, with something. A year from now, correct. It'd be for the following school year. But if there's a modification that the board would like to see, we could go back and work at it. I know there was some discussion about that. Just keep in mind that does impact bus driver contracts and those sorts of things. And we made some increases on some other things, on bus driver duties and different things inside of that joint packet too.
And what did this 6% increase?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that go to all classes?
All classified, yes, ma'am. All classified staff members, and we felt comfortable with that. We crunched the numbers and felt comfortable with that, and that was a pretty sizable increase to our operational budget, and then gradually to our categorical funds too. And so while it might not be the most savory thing inside this conversation, I could see us potentially getting to the Magnolia number, or whatever we want to call that, over the course of 3 years versus all at once. I don't think that's a hard and fast determination, but doing it more gradually.
What was just proposed does not get us to the Magnolia number.
Correct.
You're speculating that we can get there.
I would not feel comfortable saying that as a definitive, but I think you have to look at the allocation that the state gives you per pupil and the transportation funding that the state allocates. And to say that we would be able to get there for sure, I think is not where I am either. But, you know, baked into, and this is something that I've talked with Reverend Hunter about, and Maurice and different folks, baked inside of pay that bus drivers receive in our district, there are some additional trips and rates that bus drivers can take advantage of as well. And so it's not the number of employees who are just doing this on the base. We do have some that's the only trips they take. But then when they do take additional trips, we pay them, I would say probably better than a lot of the surrounding districts, to be honest. And so we supplemented some of the lower base, even with the 6% increase, with some of the increases for trips, an hourly rate for trips and things like that. So we have been to work on this. This is not like we've been stagnant in this field.
Well,
Going to make the recommendation that we take the superintendent's recommendation regarding the bus driver salary schedule.
It's been moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Ms. Dixon, that we accept the recommendation of superintendents on the bus schedule salary. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. Those opposed? Has been a 4-3 vote. So motion carries.
And so we'll come back to that next school year. I'm telling you, like, I want to have an increase. We will come back next year with something in addition to some other employee groups as well.
I'm certainly in agreement with that sentiment, and I just think that Mr. Hoagland's point earlier about some parts of it, about the whole thing, is to be considered at a different day and a different time. But I wish we could honor that tonight, but I'm going to put you on the job of getting it done.
I do not mind that at all, and I'll work with Reverend Hunter to get to that end, and I feel comfortable doing that.
Batch of things is the RIF.
Correct. And so we have the superintendent's rec on the RIF recall policy, and then the CPPC rec on the RIF recall policy. The two different recommendations for the RIF recall, which is the superintendent's rec of having interview as a requirement versus hire, and I don't want to speak for you, but the CPPC rec for the mandatory hire. So the two different policy options.
Just off the Reverend Hunter, is it your stance that there is an automatic hiring, or is that just kind of a matter of wording with what the superintendent says, where there is an interview process, but the most qualified person gets that position?
That recall policy states
qualified. And then, of course, there's the evaluation. So there's a lot of other things to consider when you're going to recall somebody to a position. It's not like Ms. Crystal Riff and they'll just all have to do it. But after considering those other options, then they could be recalled. But if it's done without an interview, what's the other?
Right. And basic difference, that is the first part of the basic difference, and the second part is mandatory employment after the fact. Mandatory employment on the back end, so I'm not recommending a mandatory hiring on the back end, while the CPPC is recommending a mandatory hiring. And so it really is two different ways of, I mean, they're not the same, the policy, just to be clear. One of them is interview, mandatory, and one is recall to a qualified position without an interview. So, and again, hopefully we'll never have to have a RIF, but those are just the two.
Well, I don't too, but we are agreeing with the ASBA.
Right. And so the ASBA is one or the other, and so there's room for a modified, and that's what we're doing with the modified.
Okay, what you just talked about, it's their recommendation or their policy to do that.
As an option.
Thank
An
you.
option one is no recall at all, and option two is recall. And so we decided to add an interview
Yeah.
clause. We're not in a public comment. We're not in a public comment section. It would just be, the simple answer is whoever's on the interview committee, right? No, I got you.
I guess what doesn't make sense to me is for it to be exactly like certified. Because part of the point system, I don't know how many, and I'm not saying we don't have any, or I'm not saying they're all not, but how many classified employees do we have that would get points for a master's degree, a doctoral degree?
It would be, yeah, right. So it'd be advanced education. And we have parapros that have.
I know we have parapros with
master's degrees.
Right.
Some, yeah.
But I'm thinking more bus drivers, even bus mechanics who know a lot more than a lot of people with master's degrees, including me, but certainly wouldn't have the advantage of seeking those points if it's exactly like certified.
Well, it falls under the classified employee groupings. It's
Right,
not-
I know that,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're not eligible for those points that are listed in the,
Years of experience and education, they are eligible for those things.
but when you're talking about points, that's not listed there.
License or credential relevant to the position, basic license or certification, advanced license or certification. The master's degree pieces are probably less applicable, and then the evaluation scores would be the highest.
Just to move things along, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion and see if we can get a second and a vote. And I am going to make the motion that regarding the recall RIF issue, that we include an interview process as opposed to an automatic recall in the policy. That's my motion.
Moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mrs. Dickinson, that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and not take on an automatic rehire, just do an interview process. Those in favor, show by a show of hands.
Certified was approved last month. It was an interview process being, in the event of a RIF, correct? Certified would have an interview process, yes, sir.
Again, it's been moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Ms. Dickinson, that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to do an interview process as opposed to an automatic hire. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. Those opposed. Again, 4-3 votes, so the motion carries.
Thank you for that. And I would just say, we talked about this extensively. It's not, we want it to be fair in how we do all that. Student insurance. Student insurance. This probably has less debate. Okay, we're just going to re-up. I was going to try to go to a lower policy amount, locking in for the 2-year policy amount, but then investigated how many policies we've had with kids without insurance at all and decided to stick with what we got. So it's a little bit more expensive on our policy sheet, but because we've been in business with Dwight Jones for so long, it will be lower than many other districts of our size. So it's a $29,000 policy amount, but that is takes into account students who may not have any insurance at all. And we do have some. 29,000, yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure that's cheaper than when we started.
It is.
The board may know, but I turned in bids that were higher than that over my time as AD.
Fair to that, but I do know that I couldn't tell you how many years we dealt with those folks.
If that be the case, I'll just entertain a motion on.
I make a motion to approve the bid.
Moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we accept the superintendent's recommendation on the student insurance. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And the motion is unanimous and carries. Next thing is the regular board meeting dates for 24-25.
As we know, we have quite a challenge with this because we always have it on the third Monday, which rarely works out. And so what I'm looking at for next year is a recommendation after the June meeting, which would be the 13th of June. Would be starting in July, would be the potentially the third Tuesday. So the third Tuesday of each month, I think, puts us in decent positioning. Does not take into account Labor Day, misses some of those Monday holidays. November is the last week, is Thanksgiving there. And December, that's before Christmas break, misses MLK Day. So there may be some modifications. I'm not saying there won't be a time where it's really hard for us and we have to shift, but I think the third Tuesday for this next school year sets us up better where we're not having to make more adjustments than we are sticking to our original dates.
You said this will start in July?
Yes, ma'am. The third Tuesday of each month.
Make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
And seconded by Ms. Moss that we accept superintendent's recommendation of having regular meetings on the third Tuesday of each month. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And we're unanimous.
Yes, so that's a federal holiday, Juneteenth, June 19th is a federal holiday. I would like to make the recommendation that we honor that this year and then factor that into our next year's calendar. We did not have that factored into this year's calendar, but we have discussed that as early as, I think, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I would like to make that a part in an agreed-upon fashion for all the auditing purposes, and you name it, that it would be an agreed-upon holiday for this school year.
I have a question. So we're adding that holiday to 240?
It would impact
260 and
it would impact 240s and 260s.
so is it going in as one of the option days or is it going in as a day?
It would go in as in a day for this year, and then looking at it next year, modifying the policies to make sure it's accounted for in the policy change. We just didn't include that in any policy changes for this next year. And it still falls under this year because it's before June 30th.
Right, so it hadn't been to any personnel policy or
This
anything like
this
that?
has not. This has not. This was a discussion playing catch up on this to try to make sure that we account for it before that day comes and goes.
Well, since we're working 4 days in June, we could take Tuesday off and work Friday and you'd have it. Wouldn't affect anything.
So you're saying recognize it as an extended contract day?
I don't know if you can have summer school with an extended contract day.
I mean for
Well, you'd have administrators on 240, some. I'm just looking at the overall effect. You know, saying you get a day off is great. I'm all for a day off. I've got several of them lined up this week. But what does it do to the overall picture? We still having summer school that day?
We would not be having summer school that day. So that day
But you
would
still have to put in a certain number of Carnegie hours for summer school. So you're going another day, some other day.
we would be able to meet the requirement for hours in summer school for recovery or additional support.
You would or would not?
Would.
Okay.
Good questions.
More questions?
Good questions.
Violence, that we accept superintendent's recommendation of acknowledging Juneteenth as a part of the calendar. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And we have unanimous vote. Next thing is the illustrative math quote.
So, yes, sir. So this is 5 through 12 math materials that break the threshold. This will be continuing that math adoption that we started previously. This will be paid for with ARP funds and not district operating, so all around good. This adds to our learning loss total, so recommending that these materials will be approved for this next school year.
I'm in order, I move that we accept the recommendation of the Kendall Hunt grand total cost of the math, is it the math?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, math and science.
Moved by Ms. Moss, seconded by Mrs. Dickinson, that we accept the superintendent recommendation of illustrated math and science quote. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And unanimous. Next thing is a employee waiver.
This is
Do
a
we need to
mandatory.
go?
Correct. This is this is a mandatory, unless there's no discussion. So
Yes.
this is a mandatory re-up. This happened 2019 maybe, and it's time
Yes.
for the re-up. This person has been employed with us for quite some time, has received numerous superintendent's awards and other distinctions. They are a really good employee with us. This is just required based on background check regulations and just the way that system works. So I'm recommending that waiver approval today.
Make a motion to accept the waiver, or to propose the waiver.
Yeah.
It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we accept or approve the waiver that is presented by the superintendent. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And we have unanimous vote. Assurances and GPA statement.
All right, so this is also the time of the year for GEPA statements. Usually we do this a little bit later. The timeline on approval is a little bit sooner. And so if we could get approval for this, the state has changed their system where we used to have multiple assurances. Now we're going to have one comprehensive assurance. I am hopeful this will make the process easier, but we will see. And so regardless, we have to have a signature and approval with the board on the assurances and GEPA statement. And I have that for signature if approved here today.
Motion that we approve the GEPA statement, the assurances and GEPA statement.
Yep.
Marvin Moss, second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Ms. Moss, that we accept the assurance and GEPA statement. Those who are in favor, show by show of hands. And we have unanimous vote. Next things, we have 3 student hearings.
I think we should go, I would recommend if we can go slightly out of order so we can
Yes,
get
sir.
all of the basic business before any potential executives.
Yes, sir.
So the basic business would be 2 facilities rental requests that have gone through the chain. We have granted similar ones before to the same organizations. Take them separately, please, but one is for the Burl Henry Cafeteria and one is for Yerger Middle School. The checks and balances all recommend the approval of both, so I would recommend the approval of both. I think so, yes, ma'am, if you would. So the Burl Henry rec and then the Yerger rec.
I move that we grant the facility rental request for, what,
Either one.
okay, for Burl Henry Cafeteria.
Moved by Ms. Moss, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we accept the Burl Henry Cafeteria recommendation. Those in favor, show by show of hands. Unanimous vote. Entertain a motion on the second. It's been moved by Mr. Courtney, seconded by Mr. Power, that we accept the Yerger facilities request rental. Those in favor, show by show of
I have a
hands.
question.
Yes, ma'am. Question?
Are they using the cafeteria, the school, I mean, it says Yerba Middle School, are they using the whole school district?
No, ma'am. So the last 2 years, they've just used the circle drive area at the back to line up for the Juneteenth parade. And then if there's any hookups necessary, we allow hookup access. So it's not using the entire facility. I think Coach Hoagland may have had a similar question.
Okay.
I just had a question.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Courtney, seconded by Mr. Powers, that we accept the Yerger facilities rental. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And we have a unanimous vote.
All right, student hearing.
Student hearing.
Closed has been requested.
Closed has been requested, so
I'm going to make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation as stated with mental health counseling regarding the reviewed student.
it's been moved by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mr. Courtney, that we accept the superintendent's recommendation in regards to the student hearing. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And we are unanimous. We had some more.
Two more.
Okay, yes.
they're not here,
Okay,
so
so,
we could discuss those together.
okay. So there are 2 more student hearings in front of you. If you had an opportunity to look at them, if you need a few minutes, then so.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Mrs. Moss. To regular session.
Make a motion, we go back into to regular session.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Ms. Milas, that we go back into regular session, and that we will do. I'll entertain a motion on the student hearings. And they can be bundled in one.
Okay, let's make it more specific, just for a lot of reasons. Let's say one is the first one you had, just call
Okay.
it student 1, student A, and then the second one will be student B.
Make a motion, student A, accept superintendent's recommendation.
It's been moved by Mr. Courtney, seconded by Ms. Milas, that we accept superintendent's recommendation on student A. Those in favor, show by show of hands. Unanimous. And now student B.
Whereas I make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation,
It's been moved by Mr. Courtney, seconded by Ms. Moss, that we accept superintendent's recommendation on student B. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And unanimous vote. Pass them down.
Oh, boy, I'm already squeezing back in my packet.
Okay?
So, forgot about that.
So these rental personnel packet may. Let's do, yeah, just student hearings, yeah. Let's put-
All right, personnel has multiple parts for this one. There's a regular personnel packet that has some summer school in there. And there's some slight index change things that have gone through PPC and CPPC. And then there's a rationale that's just informational only. And then this is because of the LEARNS Act, we have the contract list for all classifieds that will be offered a contract that is also included with this. So if you would like to go to executive to have any discussion, just need to make a motion to do so. If not, we can take them one by one. All these have been approved by the proper channels, whether it's CPPC or PPC, but any discussion we can have.
By Ms. Moss, seconded by Ms. Dixon, that we go into executive session. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And we are back in executive session. We go back into regular session.
I make a motion.
Mr. Courtney, seconded by Mr. Powers, that we go back into regular session. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. And we are back in regular session. I'll entertain motions in regards to our personnel packet.
I move that we accept the personnel packet
Yes.
as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Dickinson, seconded by Ms. Moss, that we accept the notification of resignation or retirement personnel packet. Those in favor, show by a show of hands.
Yep.
6 in favor, 1 abstain.
That's right.
Motion carries. Certified salary changes. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hoagland and seconded by Mr. Powers that we accept certified salary changes. Those in favor, show by a show of hands. All in favor? Motion carries. Robotics increase salary breakdown.
So that's just informational. So
Just
the
information,
next one
okay.
would be classified changes.
Classified salary changes.
Make a motion to approve classified salary changes.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Hoagland, seconded by Ms. Milas, that we accept classified salary changes. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And unanimous.
Contracts, last one,
Contracts. By where?
classified contracts.
Classified contracts.
That's the last one, last item.
Okay, those in favor, show by show of hands. Oh, we need a motion. Motion, I'm sorry, need a motion. Yeah. Contract. Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Dixon, seconded by Mr. Powers, that we accept classified contracts. Those in favor, show by show of hands. And motion is unanimous. If we have nothing else to bring before the board, then we are adjourned.